Hello guys, today I have a guitar in my hand as usual it seems, but today I wanted to make a little reflection video on some stuff. I've been starting to look at the webpage that you might know of, can show you here, Quora. There's a lot of, you can say, different topics in MBTI community. I think there's a lot of talks in these forums. Probably on Reddit as well, and lately, like last week, I've started to look at this a bit more again to see some perspectives of both like how INFJs are typically, what other people think of INFJs, and the point of this video, I would say, is that I want to look at if I can recognize where they're coming from, if I feel that, for example here, Susanna Viljanen, probably a Finnish woman, if I agree with their perspectives, or probably sometimes not even perspectives thought through, but some might just answer right off the bat. So it might just be an opinion out of nowhere. So the main thing I want to look at here is to look at a couple of comments and give you my reflection on it, and you can give yours as well on certain points, or you can timestamp in the comments if there's something you disagree with on my perspective, or do agree with, or about their perspective, or if there's something that pops up, an insight or something when you watch something that one of those people have written. So in this case, in this video, I was thinking about the negative traits of an INFJ, and I have seen on the internet a handful of times, especially lately, like there was some thread here, like what INFPs think of INFJs, and there was a lot of negative shit actually, even though I think the majority of INFPs like INFJs and vice versa. Of course, there will always be all these variables, but I found many of the negatives were very ungrounded and not actually thought through. That might be something that they see from their angle perspective, but they haven't looked into the perspective of the other, in this case, and the INFJ, like seeing why they are like this or why they are like that. It was too superficial for me, which many things often are, and no judging on anyone really here, but I feel like you cannot really define, or you cannot say that this is a typical INFJ thing, because one, the person might not even have been an INFJ, of which you're speaking of, and you might be mistyped yourself, and you might not know what an INFJ actually is. Some people are like, I have 7 INFJs in my life. No, you really don't have 7 INFJs in your physical atmosphere. That's a very small likelihood of that happening. And if you're mistyped yourself, or if you don't know how to type others, then the bigger picture of this is that, for example, INFJs, or overall how human beings work, is that the information is spread like wildfire, especially on the internet today, and you find that people will come across the information, that someone has their personal opinion, and this will become a part of their identity, a part of their thought process, like, oh, INFJs are like this because I saw 3 people say this, and maybe all 3 of those persons, or at least one of them, or at least 2, weren't actually talking about an INFJ, and maybe they were very biased. And for example, when 2 people break up, typically which is very common, is that when one of these beings is communicating with their friends, family, or on the internet, like, it's always like, yeah, it's not my fault, this person was this and that, that's why it didn't work, and he was mean to me, and blah blah blah. And that is often not also the truth. It's a biased opinion, and people are refusing to see what part they had to play in the relationship. So the negatives and positives too often comes from a place of missing puzzle pieces and deriving conclusions from that. And that is not how you do things if you want to be accurate or true in this life about anything, concepts, thoughts, or a deeper life process in general. You cannot come from a true place in that regard. So yeah, let's dive into a couple of the comments, and sometimes I think I'll be a bit short if I just, yeah, this could seem like an overall INFJ trait, and sometimes I might probably react a bit bigger and have something to add to it or something to deny it, where it doesn't work, blah blah blah. You get the deal. So I thought maybe this could give some reflection and insights, both what I'm sharing, like an introduction here, and also the part of what we can see here, to see what you can reflect on, what you get out of this, if you see like it's true, what are things really based on, is it a stereotypical thing where you can find, okay, many people find this trait, for example, then it's a probability, high probability that is something going on with this type of people, for example, INFJ people. But it doesn't mean that it's true, because often the masses of, for example, harsh example, like the German, Nazi Germany in 1930s and 40s, just because the majority is, probably not sure if the majority was really into it though, but let's say the majority of Germany was buying into the political stuff, and just because a majority or an influential person says this, that, or the other on Twitter, it doesn't mean it's true. It really doesn't. Just because 99%, let's see here, 99% will say that only the physical reality exists. But when Einstein, like all the shit that he did, which is amazing, for example, Einstein, he would be the 1%, or much less actually, to see things differently, that there is more than the physical reality and what lies beyond it, the field, the quantum. So who's right? The 99% because there are more people voicing that sort of opinion, or the one who actually knows? Typically people go towards the masses side there, maybe the stereotypes, or maybe the media, or what is being mostly expressed of what we can see as sensory input. Anyway, long introduction, but I think it's important for us in life to have some discernment capabilities, not just judgment, plain off, not thinking or reflecting truly on what's going on inside of us and why we think what we think, why we do what we do, why we feel what we feel, why we have opinions all of this stuff. So let's dive into it. What are the negative traits of an INFJ? Let's see what Susanne has to say. INFJs are sensitive and emotional people, and an immature INFJ is likely to be sentimental as well, in wrong places. First, is it really the case that being sensitive to life, being sensitive to sensory input, being a sensitive being, which is often a more open, when you look at other traits, like for the Big Five, for example, you have probably more openness, you're probably more actually here in life, not just being completely biased. Of course, you can buy into more of your own shit easily if you're sensitive. For example, I would say that I'm sensitive, but what I'm saying here, you cannot link sensitivity and emotionality. Being emotional is, we all have emotions, human beings. Is it negative to have emotions, or can the emotions be experienced as negative? There's a big difference there, It seems like we have to update. We can do that later. So that's not a negative, and that's not a negative either. But depending on the situation, it can be a negative. If someone is not, like she says here, immature INFJ, so you cannot really put the label on this is an INFJ thing. Anything could be said here. INFJs, it could be ESTPs, blah blah blah, and it could apply to just about any type. But of course, typically, we are sensitive and emotional people as INFJ individuals, personalities, but also in the wrong places. There's what is the definition of being sensitive and emotional, and adding the context of being immature in that in the wrong places. You cannot really do that. Of course, sensitive and emotional, true, but that being negative, no. INFJs are strong personalities. That means they can be incredibly stubborn and pig-headed. Might be some aspect of what I just, what I stated here in the last minutes about that first point that might seem like an example of being stubborn or wanting to have my will, or for example the NI way of leaning towards a singular truth, like a tunnel vision thing, which I think INFJs, that is probably a typical trait of INFJs, being a bit stubborn, or being maybe even very stubborn actually, not being able to accept or give in to other people's perspectives and viewpoints, but pretending like they are, but still holding on to their stuff. Not and for example here, the question is, what are negative traits? And then someone writes, INFJs are strong personalities. Is that in and of itself a negative thing? It isn't. There's no logic to that. So, you know, it breaks down again and again. I think we'll find a lot of this. That means they can be incredibly stubborn. I think we can be incredibly stubborn, pig-headed, but probably in this case, as well as I was talking about a couple of minutes ago with the INFPs, they might not know the reasons why. For example, if there's a concept I've been ruminating on, or really getting into a topic, something that I'm passionate about, and been reflecting on from many angles for many years, and someone comes, for example, in a social setting, and that topic comes up to the surface somehow, and someone states their opinion, and I state mine, for example, my perspective rather. I don't care much of opinions. Anyone can have whatever they want there, doesn't really matter. And if I bring something that I have thought about or reflected on, try to find the accuracy and truth of, understanding of for a long time, and someone just had 2 to 3, maybe just a reaction of 1 second, but let's say maybe maximum 5 seconds to think about the same very thing. And if they really think that, for example, if I cannot come with a concrete example here, but it's so evident, like if I've spent a long time on something, if I've been working a field in 10 years and someone has done it for 5 minutes and they claim that I'm being stubborn for doing it, stubborn or single-minded for doing it a certain way, where I've spent a lot of time, experience, time, reflection, and they come with a 5 seconds thing, like out of nowhere. Probably they will, if I have something against that notion of them being like too short and just bringing a random answer and think that, okay, this is the truth. They might see me as stubborn if I don't just accept that by just, okay, yeah, you're probably right. It's like, I've been playing football for 5 minutes of my life, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the Swedish football player, he's been playing for many, many years, and I come there and think that I'm better than him at what he's doing. It just doesn't work that way. So I think many times people can find INFJs being stubborn or don't want to change their mind, but they don't see the reasons behind it. They haven't met the INFJ or whatever person it might be at the place of knowing where they come from and why, to then see if it's a negative thing or if it's not. And not even if it's negative or positive, but it's this thing that we disagree on or whatever it can be that causes that notion of someone being stubborn. Is it true? Whatever the matter is it true? If I'm actually wrong about something, like that person judging the INFJ from being stubborn, then is the INFJ stubborn just to be stubborn, or to prove a point for the greater good, you know? So already 2 comments, 2 points really, and already rambling on for a long time. So I feel like you can pick apart pretty much everything. I guess that's some part of INFJ's NITI as well, probably the TI being very pure in a sense for INFJs, which I've read plenty of times, and I can see the connection there. So let's take number 3. Their stress reaction is SE, external sensory. They are likely to overindulge in alcohol, drugs, or wild partying when stressed. The only woman who can drink me under the table is an INFJ. Yes, their stress reaction is SE, the 4th function, which also opens the gateway to the subconscious, which is for an INFJ and ESTP, and I can see those tendencies, and I can see how the risk of overindulging in food, or overindulging in gaming, overindulging in working out, which I did in the past, like really working out a lot, really playing a lot. Overindulging in alcohol and drugs, I can totally see that too, because that is an SE experience, and that this can actually be a negative thing. The only woman who can drink behind the table is an INFJ. Well, if you, Susanna, are a drinker, I don't want to pick apart everything, and you know I can do it in every sentence really. But yes, this is overall true. This can be a negative trait of an INFJ, which they struggle with. Like an overconsumption or indulgence of something, whatever that might be. Overindulgence of thoughts, like when we get stressed, I think the processing of thoughts becomes overall critical, stressed out, and we don't have any place to ground ourselves in the thought process, so it becomes very skewed. So doing important things, making important decisions for any human being under stress is not the right thing to go about. So we need to find a place where we ground ourselves, balance ourselves, neutralize. But I can see the third one as a possibility. I've not used alcohol in that way though. Cannabis, more in the past, like I still use it here and there, but not in the same way. But I can see that the stress I experienced, both in body and mind, and the health and life overall situation, and reflectioning, like thinking of past stuff that has not been resolved yet. I can see how to ease that stress, to get some breathing space. INFJs and INTJs have a tendency of doing these things. It's in the risk zone for sure. Number 4, they are worrywarts and at worst outright pessimists. Well, I've often been called, especially in the past, not as much nowadays, but when I was younger, like teenager and probably sometime even before, somewhere around when my brother died, I think it started to be more negative outwardly. It wasn't even necessarily negative. And once again, I think INFJs can be critical with our TI, we want accuracy, and we also find the FE stuff objectively in the world that is happening, that is actually a real thing. And the TI brings this into a context of logic, and we bring it out to people, because we, as other human beings as well, has to express our thoughts, emotion and feelings and whatever that comes to mind. And this might seem outright pessimistic, and I think we can be outright pessimistic too, about things, about ourselves, about certain situations, when we also, probably when it's too much of the SE stress reaction, when life isn't really working for or with us as we feel it. And I think we can worry big time. I think we are maybe one of the types that worry the most, because there's this constant, especially when we're alone and not socializing a lot, there's a lot of NITI going on, and from all these futuristic possibilities and not conclusions, but things that we find that is working out itself, the NI process, that the TI takes some grip of trying to formulate in words and blah blah blah, because the NI is definitely not in words. And this, I can see how this process I've been a worrier for most of my life, but this can also be due to, this can be for any type. It's not, this is not negative traits of an INFJ singularly. This is an INFJ, here are the negative traits, and then an ESTP or an ESTJ watches this. He can be a negative or a worrier, and he can be a pessimistic person. So this is not an INFJ trait. But I can see how it portrays in an INFJ. Let's move on. We can have a shorter one for this Susanna here again. The INFJ soul-piercing glare. It is one of the few things an INTJ fears. Well, this Susanna is probably an INTJ, and she fears the soul-piercing glare. Well, I guess they also have the NISE for first and fourth function axis. So interesting. The only thing that an INTJ fears, but no, that's not the case. INTJ fears not being valued or seen for their credentials, and not being like productive or being good at something, not being professional. INTJs also fear having their emotions, like they do feel deeply and such. They just have very strong walls, seemingly like they are hard to hit. Like INFPs are typically talked about like they are can easily get into emotional, like take things personal and stuff. But INTJs absolutely do that as well. But their FI is hidden by the a bit colder exterior, often colder or neutral, not showing as much emotion. But they are sensitive, and I think what they fear here is that they feel that INFJ can see through that while really looking at them, like most people don't. So that's an understandable fear if you're afraid of people getting close or actually getting to know you more than the exterior person that you're trying to show yourself to be, like the positive aspects or where you're good at, blah blah blah. So yeah. I'm also looking for... Okay, we can go a bit... I'm looking for comments that have some upvotes where I can see that there's been some reflection or agreeableness from other people. For example here, Margaret Beluga, let's see what she has to say. INFJs can be destructive of others, of themselves. Yes, I think that I have been like that. I think there are tendencies left that are destructive and right off negative, that are not positive. I think it comes from inferiority. Not necessarily. INFJs have this dark core. No one has a dark core. That is just your opinion. That is just what you see from the outside world. No one has a dark core. There is no dark core at all. Only the superficial parts of us that comes and goes over time can be dark. The things that mold us, the things that happen to us. That is not what anyone is at core. INFJs have this dark core. They hate talking about that though. I do not hate personally talking about things that are negative or that aren't perfect with me, that are wrong, blah 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 blah. So not in my case. Deep down we know we're capable. Oh, it's an INFJ writing it. Interesting. Deep down we know we're capable of the worst. Yes, I think we all are, but INFJs are more acutely aware of what the human being is capable of doing in negative ways. Because we see the FESE reality playing out all the time, and the NITA is reflecting on that objective more than others, more than most at least. But we do our best to control it. We is every INFJ dark at core, and we are only seeing the capability of the worst in ourselves and others, and we all are trying to control ourselves, not to go around killing people and blah blah blah. Too much personal bias here. If an INFJ is really pissed off at someone and they think they deserve a punishment of some sort, and or could hurt someone else, they will find the most... I think so. I don't need to find the most effective way. I think I probably could go into the process of trying to find the most hurtful way of expressing something or getting back at someone. But I see also where she's coming from here with the think of we're trying our best to control it. So of course I know easily how I could upset or intellectually or emotionally destroy any human being, like with my psyche, with my words. Because I, like the INTJ suggested above, I can see through the layers of superficial bullshit that people are trying to project. And it usually works for them, but it doesn't work with me. So if someone is really pissing me off or hurting me, I probably could hurt them very much, and I could choose to control it or not. But I'm not out to punish someone or hurt someone. It might have, and it might happen for INFJs as a reaction in real time, or getting vengeful. I think we can probably get vengeful or resentful for a long time but not act on it. So we more often than not take it upon ourselves and internalize the feelings and the resentment or the sadness or whatever that we experience that someone has brought to our life experience. But I can see, like I said, I'm just playing a bit with the words. I'm playing a bit with people's things here, as you notice, and looking into the logic behind it and just how, I don't know, stereotypical and many things are here. But I find the truth. I can see the INFJ way tendency in this. Because of our armor and shield, we can be cold and cynical. Probably, yes. Some INFJs mistype as MTs. Well, anyone can probably mistype as anything. And some mistypes as something else. Because of our armor and shield, we can probably seem cynical. My INFP best friend has said that I'm a couple of times when I express some objective stuff that is happening in the real world, which are negative things that he doesn't want to think about or that people feel negative stuff about. It feels heavy or whatever. I don't want this to be true. It's breaking the harmony or whatever. And it can seem cold and cynical, but due to the TI singular subjective expression of that objective. So I think I think I can be and have been cynical and can appear cold, but when we really aren't. I think INFJs consciously or unconsciously can play cold or cynical as well to protect themselves. Also, which every ego, every personality will and can do. Isolating themselves and being trapped in their loneliness. Yes, I think that is very common for INFJs. I think that has been very common in my life. I've always had friends, so I had family, like I said in the past, but I think I've been isolating and suppressing myself in many ways through life, but I'm doing that less and less the last years than I've been doing in the past, but I'm still isolating myself from a lot of social interactions and stuff. Easily overwhelmed by things due to people not being actually aware of what they're doing, who they are, blah blah blah. And I see so clearly and feel people's hurt and blah blah blah, and their inconsistency of being, and also consistency of the negative traits that we propose or express and project on one another. It's just, so yeah, I think there's a big likelihood, and I see that in many other INFJs as well, and not only see, like, I need to hear them say it or so, I can tell when someone is isolating themselves via video, or by the way someone writes something on Facebook, I can see, feel into, and probably often be right about what is the theme here, what is the thing going on that makes this person suppress their emotions, suppress their very being, who they actually are, what they want to go about in life. So isolating, I think, yes, and it can probably be for many reasons. Hating people because they don't match their vision, no, then you're just immature. There's no reason to hate others because they don't match your idealized vision. I probably have an idealized version, it said. Version of the world. Well, there's no reason, and it's absolutely no sense to hate someone because they don't have the same thing there. But of course, I could be maybe feel some mistrusting towards someone if I find that their so-called values or how they feel about like if they're compassionate, empathetic or not. I can get a solid picture, and probably often even there I'm right about many things. I don't know all of it. We don't know all of anyone. Hating, no. Maybe being possibly judgmental and having our opinion about things, just like anyone can. So not an INFJ thing once again, but of course the idealized version of the world and societies and the human being is probably very important to an INFJ, so we put a lot of weight to that. And just in the same way that some people like an ESTP stereotypically likes to work out and be fit and whatever, I don't think they hate other people that aren't in the idealized version of their world, like everyone should be doing this and be practical. I don't think they hate everyone for that. I think they might not choose to be with those people. Like there might be a separation there due to differences in our mind concepts. But yeah, we could do another thread about what idiotic things humans do, like destroying their home planet. Well, INFJs are part of destroying their home planet as well. So we can be probably be biased there. Like if we're still doing this or the other that doesn't work, for like plastic consumption of various kind of foods that drains the planet of a lot of resources, and how much car and flights we take, blah blah blah. So INFJs aren't. I can just see how the probability of us having a judgment on things, for sure, on people or why they are doing this, or because we do care about the collective, the world, state, and such. But then we have to not be too. We have to look at ourselves as well. We cannot just sit and blame other people. So for they are destroying the planet. What am I contributing with, or how am I destroying the planet? So instead of hating, reflect. Let's see how long it's been. 31 minutes. Oh my god. I thought I was gonna do like a 50-minute one, but it seems impossible. I'll just upload this and do something like this, some reflections and stuff in the future, and put it a bit shorter, with a shorter introduction, probably a bit more TE, effectiveness, productivity, to get more out of the time. But then again, you miss out on the processes of thinking, which I think is very interesting. What I find interesting in others too. I want to see how things come up to the surface. And that's what I like about doing videos like this, more raw, not as edited, not as perfect, and trying to be showing a certain view of myself like most people actually are, and that's okay. That's where they're at. But I'm just not interested in trying to pretend that I'm something I'm not, and show an exterior that is not essential or true to more of my core being. Let's have one last, maybe. And we'll do something like this again, a bit shorter, a bit more effective, and I will also have videos on reflecting on other people's videos, insights, and building upon them or breaking them down. Or and we can have comments about if they dislike but all of this stuff can bring about a lot of different context to the INFJ and or overall MBTI community. Or if anyone watching isn't about these things at all, watching me for another reason, like the spiritual stuff, it goes into the processes of the human collective as well, in whatever I do. So I kind of link these two together naturally nowadays. They can be self-righteous. Yes, I think it's possible. I think anyone can be, so it doesn't really apply to only INFJs. But I think that's possible. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Hypercritical. In a way that they condemn people, things that they may be unconsciously doing. That this is what I was talking about, this destroying the world, or people are like this or that. And if I'm doing the same thing or something alike myself, which I'm not aware of, haven't looked into, haven't taken responsibility for yet, then obviously I'm a hypocrite still. And as long as we remain as personalities and egos and the limited version of ourselves, everyone is to a certain extent hypocritical. There is no way around it, but I won't discuss that further in this video. But it's impossible for anyone who is a person to not be a hypocrite. It's impossible to not be a hypocrite to the life one actually is. But in the typical sense of speaking about it, this is what I was talking about in the last point. Extremely emotional and sensitive. Yes, I think that is common. And once again, if this is imagine like this, if this is the response that we get now from two people, in this case, two INTJs in this thread, if being what you are is deemed as extreme in one way or the other, where people obviously neglect or have some type of problem with what you are, what you express, where you're at right now, who's the problem? The one being and expressing the self as it is now, being true to that, trying to go through that and showing that, being what you are? Or is the problem at the one judging that and not willing to meet that human being? It's your friend, it's your mother, it's your girlfriend, it's your boyfriend, it's your grandfather. What is the problem here? The problem is that we're not meeting one another. If one is emotional and sensitive, if that person is met by love and understanding, it doesn't mean, I love you, I mean actual presence. But that's all it takes. Those emotional and sensitive natures of someone can be, and really is, a gift if it's met and not being pushed down, or you're being too much of this, you're being too much of that. You cannot be this way. If we try to change what we are, what one another is all the time, we're in big trouble, and we will never get satisfied, even for a moment in life, actually. So this is not. It's true, we are emotional and sensitive, but seeing it as a negative way, like a negative thing, that is, you cannot have it that way without actually maybe expressing why in this subjective case it's a negative thing with this individual subjective person, and why that triggers you to write that it's extreme and that it's in a negative sense. It has to be more concise, it has to be more true to the point, and it cannot be so much of a generalization that it links to being a negative thing, being emotional. If you're unemotional in life, you're not actually being human. You're suppressing yourself, and what you're closer to at core, emotions and thoughts and feelings. They are just coming and going. They are passing and flowing. It's just happening. If we stop judging and putting labels and putting it into this box of being negative when you're an emotional being, like you feel stuff a lot, you feel music, you feel even if me feeling this call to express this right now. Am I being extremely negatively emotional and negatively sensitive now? Or am I trying to make sense and bring some objectivity and from my own subjectivity to the world and share that with others, so people can reflect on things and maybe, perhaps, hopefully, meet each other where we're at, instead of judging and pushing each other down for our differences? And where those differences, because this INTJ probably isn't as extremely emotional and sensitive, she can write this, but because if she was the same, she would say, we are both like this, and then there would be it wouldn't be a negative ring to it, probably, because then they can relate to it themselves. But when they can't, and it's like something that triggers them when someone is emotional or being sensitive, that's because they haven't dealt with that stuff in themselves yet. It's the outside world, the external world, is always a reflection of the internal. So the triggers we experience from the outside world is something that has to do with us. It is always our responsibility to meet and see and find what we can resolve in ourselves. There's always opportunities in every moment, every situation, every day, every interaction, everything that goes on to rediscover ourselves, what we truly are, beyond the conditioning that we think we are. So yeah, that should be okay. This one is over. Didn't look at all of it, but this was a long one anyway. I'll do somewhat, like I said, somewhat alike this again, and both on text, literature, more spiritual stuff, INFJ stuff, overall social, political stuff probably too, and both in text form and in the form of videos, maybe even podcasts, where I will fleek in and give some opinions and this and that, and you guys via the comments can reach out and see what you think about this, that, or the other. I'm not taking anything personal, so if you think I'm too extreme or emotional or too this or that, I would love to hear it as well, so it doesn't really matter. I don't take this thing too personally too much anymore, because I know that I am not just this body and mind. I just can't take that too seriously anymore when you've seen that it's an illusion. So it's more of a playful thing. The INFJ thing is more, and all these personalities, it's something we play out as a physical manifestations of what happens over time, and we are like the products of the happenings that have happened, both physically, the food we eat. We're literally the physical manifestation, the mind body of things that happen over time in space. Hope I'm not getting too like intellectual or existential about things that everyone might not get. But if you don't get it, it's okay too. It's not like words, we can come from different angles, relate differently to different words. We have different experiences. So no problem with me. Just be as you are, and I will be as I am. And that's the most beautiful thing. And from that, we can actually meet each other and live this life beautifully. So I'll end this video, 40 minutes long. I was hoping or thinking it would be 10 to 15 minutes, but that was not the case. And this hair is always so wonderful every time I'm gonna get a haircut from my sister soon. I can't look like this all my life. Well, obviously it won't remain this all my life if I don't cut it. It will be a very long thing in a couple of years probably. So guys, take care. I wish you the very best. I'll see you soon, and yeah, be you.